Although gaming exists in one form or another across almost every culture and society around the world, cultural prohibitions can exist that can hinder or otherwise prevent a certain game mechanic from being used. This can be seen with prohibitions against the use of cards or dice, since their use can be seen as engaging in gambling. But for those who are resourceful and have an innovative nature, they can find or think of ways around such prohibitions, creating a new game or game variant so that they can play a game without violating socio-cultural norms. An example of this can be seen with an individual who emigrated from Romania and immigrated to Israel, where they wanted to play a card game but was prevented from doing so since card use was banned. So he essentially replaced the cards with tiles and got to play their card game without having to deal with social condemnation. Greetings and welcome to Checkpoint Gaming. With this episode, we'll be going over how to play the game RummiKub.
But before delving into today's episode, let's talk about today's sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Ghost and Campfire Stories of Huntington Lake, a collection of original fiction set in and around the area of Huntington Lake, California. These range from lake monsters that possess a threat to human beings to roaming spirits of dead airmen. Accompanying these stories are a few illustrations that are peppered throughout the collection. This collection of stories can be bought on Amazon in paperback form or for your Kindle. A link will be provided in this episode's description for those interested in obtaining a copy for themselves. So big thank you to Ghost and Campfire Stories of Huntington Lake for sponsoring this episode, and with that taken care of, let's get into today's episode.
With RummiKub, it is a tile game that combines elements from rummy, mahjong, dominoes, and chess. It was invented by Ephraim Hertzano, and it is played between 2 to 4 players, with the objective having a player be the first to play all their tiles by forming sets. As they engage in melding, each player can form new sets and add or rearrange tiles of existing sets. With a run, it is a set of 3 or more consecutive numbers that are all the same color, with 1 always being the lowest valued number, 13 always being the highest, and 1 not being allowed to follow 13. With a group, it is a set of 3 or 4 tiles that are the same number but different colors, with 2 tiles of the same color not being allowed in the same group. With the base set, it consists of 106 tiles, where 104 tiles are equally divided into black, blue, orange, and red, and are numbered 1 through 13, with the remaining 2 tiles being jokers. It also comes with 4 player racks and a pouch. A variant exists where the numbered tiles remain the same, but there's 8 jokers instead of 2. With RummiKub XP, it's for 5 to 6 players, consists of 160 tiles with 4 of them being jokers, and the remaining tiles divided in the aforementioned manner, with the player racks consisting of 6 in number. With the jokers, they replace any tile found within a given set, and possess the number and color of the tile it is replacing. If used as part of the player's opening set, it'll score the value of the tile it represents. With a set that contains a joker, it can have tiles added to it, removed from it, and the set being split. And with a set of 3, the joker is able to replace the tile that is of either missing color. It is possible for a joker to be retrieved from a set and replaced with a tile that is of the same numerical value and color that the joker represents, which can only be performed after a player has laid out their initial set or sets. With a joker that has been replaced, it will have to be used during the same turn the player replaced it to either form a new set or join another set. The joker also can't be held for later use, requiring the player to play the retrieved joker on their current turn. And when retrieving a joker, it'll once again possess any value or color. With the unclaimed and unplayed pile of tiles, it's known as the pool, and it's placed in the pouch or faced down upon the table. Before play begins, the pool is to be thoroughly mixed, followed by each player drawing a tile with the player possessing the highest valued tile going first, with play proceeding clockwise. In our research, we didn't see what would happen if a player drew a joker when determining first player, so if that occurs, we think the player should just draw again. And if the highest value tile was drawn by 2 or more players, then those players will draw again to break the tie with the player who drew the highest value tile going first. From there, the tiles are to be returned to the pool and mixed once again. Once this has been completed, each player draws 14 tiles and places them into their rack. If they decide to play a given number of rounds, then the number of players will determine how many games a round will possess. So with 2 players, a round consists of 2 games. With 3 players, a round consists of 3 games, and so on. With that said, players can decide how many rounds they would like to play. When a player plays the last tile found on their rack, then the given game will come to an end with the setup procedures starting over again for the playing of a new game after dealing with scoring. For a player to initially place tiles onto the table, they will have to make an initial play that is at least 30 points that can be achieved through the playing of 1 or more sets. In our research, 30 is standard, with one source saying the initial point value is 50. With that said, we're going with 30 as default and 50 being optional. With the initial points, they have to come from the tiles found in the player's rack, not from any tiles that have already been played. And the value of any given tile is equal to its face value. With jokers, they can replace any other tile possessing the point value associated with the tile it is representing. But if a player is in possession of a joker in their rack when another player wins the game, it counts as 30 points against said player. If a player can't play a tile on their turn for one reason or another, or they choose not to play, they take a tile from the pool, ending their turn when doing so. And since their turn comes to an end, the player will have to wait until their next turn to play a tile, even if they draw a tile that they can immediately play. After playing their initial set, players can build off other sets found on the table with the tiles they possess, and to manipulate and rearrange said sets. In our research, a variant to this rule is that after playing their initial set, the player will have to wait for play to come back to them to build off and manipulate other sets found on the table. When playing off other sets, a player can continue playing tiles from their rack until they're unable to play anymore. When building off or manipulating a set, the player will have to use all the tiles found in the existing set during the turn, along with all sets formed in this manner having to follow the established rules. With the existing sets, they can be manipulated in several ways, with players doing so in the following manner if legal sets exist afterwards and no loose tiles remain at the end of the turn. So a set is unable to be left with only one or two tiles remaining on the table. First is to add one or more tiles from the player's rack to an existing set. Second is to remove a fourth tile from a group and use it to create a new set. Third is to add a fourth tile to an existing set and remove one tile from said set to create yet another set. Fourth is the combined splits, where a tile from the player's rack is played with a tile found in an existing run, followed by taking a tile from a third set. And fifth is multiple splits, which sees the player taking the necessary tiles from their rack, placing them on the table, and then manipulating 3 or more existing sets found on the table so that they can make 3 or more new sets. When a player is unsuccessful in building off or manipulating another set, they must place the tiles in their original positions, take back any tiles that they played, and draw 3 tiles from the pool with their turn coming to an end. And if playing with a time limit, these rules apply if the player doesn't complete their move within the given time frame. To help return the tiles back to their initial formation, a digital picture can be used. Play is to continue until a player has emptied their rack, saying RummiKub when doing so. Once this occurs, the given game will end and the players will tally their points. But if the pool is emptied before any player has emptied their rack, play will continue until there are no more plays for them to make. At that point, the game will come to an end. With play, a time limit can be used, with this limit being 2 minutes per player per turn, although we saw a variant where 1 minute is used instead. If a time limit is used and a player goes over this limit, they will have to draw a tile from the pool with their turn coming to an end. That's what you get for taking too long. Once a player ends a game, the losing players will total the tiles they possess as a negative number, with the winner receiving a positive value equal to the totaled value of the losers. To figure out the values each loser has, it's based off the face value of each tile they possess, along with 30 points for any jokers they possess. Once this has been completed, return the tiles to the pool and go through the setup for a new game. In addition to keeping track of points, players are to keep track of how many games each player has won. At the end of a round, the score each player obtained from each game is totaled. Once all rounds have been played, the player with the highest score wins. And in the case of a tie, the player who won the most games wins. Another way of determining the winner is by how many games a player won during the session, with the highest final score being used to determine a winner if a tie occurs. When it comes to scoring a game where the pool is depleted before a player empties their rack, once all plays have been made, the player who possesses the lowest count on their given rack is to win that given game. Each loser will tally up their total tile value and subtract said number from the winner's total, with this result being scored as a negative value for the losers. The winner, on the other hand, will get a positive score based upon the total scores of the losers. With that said, that is what you need to know in order to play the game's RummiKub. If you like this episode, feel free to give it a like. And if you want to stay up to date on any future episodes we upload, go ahead and subscribe. You can also support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/checkpointgaming. See you in the next episode, and happy gaming.